So, had another request to do a review, or a comparison review between the Wetterlings Stroud Bushman's axe and the Hults Kisa felling axe. Now, these axes are fairly different, but I'm just going to go ahead and do a quick rundown of some of the differences and the dimensions. So, I have already reviewed both of these axes individually, so I'm not going to go ahead and get to using them, but if you want to, you can go ahead and check out the video reviews that I've done of them individually. This is the Stroud Bushman's axe, and this is the Kisa felling axe, Hults Kisa felling axe. Okay, so the difference between the two heads, you can see, is kind of significant, both in the design as well as in the grinds on them. And this is a traditional, the Kisa is a very traditional Hults design. It's got the rounded face, it's got the fairly abrupt finish grind to the blade, and it's got the ears, which I do like the ears. It's one of the premium Hults axes. So, as far as the basic head designs, you can see them there. I'm going to go ahead and take some measurements between the two of these, and then I'll go ahead and move in and maybe let you look at how the blade grind differs, and kind of my opinion after doing the individual reviews. But let's go ahead, before I move on to the dimensions, I will go ahead, those of you who watch my reviews know that I'm a big fan of the pull and loop blade guards, and so the Hults has continued on with this axe in that regard. Nothing wrong. The Wetterlings they just about always came with a good quality leather sheath and snap. I will go ahead also, before I leave you for the dimensions, point out that the Stroud, of course, is not in production anymore. So you have to go ahead and scrounge around for maybe a used one, or possibly a vendor that has got one left laying around. But anyways, let's go ahead and get to some dimensions. Alright, so the Wetterlings Stroud has got approximately a 22-inch handle. It features a no metal wedge. It has a blade width of about 3.5 inches. It has a head length of about 6 inches, and is approximately head weight. They vary just slightly, but I think the head weight, if I recall correctly, is right about 1.5 pounds, maybe just slightly under. So, the dimensions on the Kisa, the Hults Kisa axe, is handle length is just about 26 inches. So it's a good 4 inches longer than the Stroud. The blade width is about 3.5 inches, so that's a good comparison to the Stroud. The blade, the length of the head is about 6.5 inches, so it's a little bit longer, but once again, there's not a whole lot of difference there in that regard. So as far as the weight and the handle length, you know, it's that handle length that starts getting you a little bit of a difference between them, and then most of the rest of it is really the design and all. So I'll go ahead and flip them around so you can see both of these axes. The Wetterlings, I've always been happy. Well, I'd say I've always been happy. I've mostly always been happy with most of their fit and finish. Some of the large hunters ended up having a few issues here and there with maybe just a lopsided head. But in general, fine axes. And the Hults the fit and finish on them are on par with any of the hand forge axes. Really nice forging, and let's go ahead and look at that. Okay, so you can see significant difference in the design. As I mentioned, this would be a classic Hults design. They've got the Swedish ears and nice rounded forging lines. The Hults, or the Stroud, it's kind of what I would count as more of a bushcraft type of design, maybe a early trapper's design or something like that. It has a really good feel. Both of these axes have a good feel. Both of these axes are in line with what I like in an axe. I like a fairly light head, fairly decent length handle. They make a really good bushcrafting axis. You know, a little bit larger than your small hatchets. They're both going to comply, you know, with those requirements. You can get a good swing, so you're able to do larger work with them, and yet still be light enough to not really be exerting a lot of energy. Now, the Kisa, they actually sell as a felling axe. I don't really count it as a felling axe. I mean, sure, you're going to be able to do some pretty good light felling with either one of these. I've used both of these frequently, and I like them both for that. But really, where I use them the most is bushcrafting, limbing, that type of thing. So I would count this more as like a forest axe or something like that. And the Les Stroud really as well. Now the Les Stroud to me has a smaller feel. It does. It just, you know, that those 4 inches in the handle give it quite a bit of shorter feel. The head, you know, they're only maybe a quarter of a pound off. The Kisa has got 1 3/4 pound head. That can be significant though. So, you know, keep that in mind. Now, the balance, the Hults Bruk, the Kisa has, you know, that classic Swedish axe feel and balance. It's a good balance. I mean, everybody knows that the Swedes, the hand-forged Swedish axes are top of the line and have got a good feel. Obviously, the Les Stroud, not being that classic Swedish design, it has a little bit of a different feel to it and balance. I like the balance on it. You would think that it would have a heavier balance to the back because it's got this little nub here for doing your small, you know, driving of wedges or what have you. Obviously nothing metal, but I do use that fairly frequently, you know, just driving in small wooden wedges or wood tent stakes, or, you know, really any of that type of thing. But it's actually not as heavy in the back as you would think, because even though it's fairly wide and longer, it's just, you know, this has got double the length. So keep that in mind. And also it has a fairly heavy cross section right from the get-go here. So I'll go ahead and hold them up, and you can kind of get a feeling for the difference in the cross section. So even though the Hults Bruk has the narrower blade up here, and I say it has a narrower blade, you're not going to be able to see it in the video very well. A lot of times the Hults Bruk axes, I do feel that even though they have the narrow blade, their grind that they put on them make them feel like they have a thicker blade. So, you know, once again, that's personal preference. When you go to chopping, just going to feel like it has a little bit more of a wide grind, partially because of the way that they just put a little bit more of a convex grind on the head. Now, another thing that keeps the Les Stroud having a little bit more balance than you would think is that it's such a wide cross section right through here. So it does go down to a fairly tight grind, and it actually feels like it has a thinner blade than it does. So as far as usability, you know, if you're looking for something a little bit bigger, a little bit more traditional, a little bit easier availability today, being that it's still in production, if you're looking, you know, for possibly doing a little bit larger jobs than the Les Stroud, keeping you know, along those lines, I'd go with the Kisa. You're not going to go wrong with the Kisa in those veins. If you're looking for something that's a little bit different, something maybe a little bit thinner, you know, grind, and yet very robust, I do like the beard and the shape of the Les Stroud. You can get your hand up here and really choke up on it. I'm thinking that that's what Les Stroud was really thinking in the design of this axe, and allowing it to be really a good bush crafting axe. You can really choke up on there. You can get a lot of leverage on it. Once again, those of you who watch my videos know that I like the versatility of using the axe for smaller work and being able to choke up on it. So keep that in mind. You will not go wrong with either one of these axes, but there are those few differences, and they are significant when you go out to use them. I mean, these two axes will perform fairly differently. Most of it, in my opinion, is personal preference. Okay, so to go ahead and wrap up the Hults Kisa axe versus the Wetterlings Stroud Bushman axe. Both great axes. One last note though, if you are having a hard time finding the Stroud, go ahead and check out the Hults Akka axe. It is about the closest axe that I have found in comparison. It's got the drop down ear. It's got it's got the fairly wide cross section, fairly straight blade, and fairly abrupt. It feels like it's a much thinner axe than it is on the cutting, and yet retains the strength. So check out the Akka Hults. I've also done a review on it. You can click and watch the review that I've done. Check out our website. We thank you all for watching. If you would, if you're interested in other videos, subscribe, like, and we'll see you on another video.